And a good Wednesday morning, Quad Cities. It is Wednesday, July 30th, and I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky here. Welcome into Ask Andrew Live on this weather impact alert day as we are tracking in some rounds of heavy rain and, yes, even some gusty winds with some of the thunderstorms that are moving through. We have got a lot to talk about. So if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. We're happy to have you. How does this work? Well, we're going to talk about everything weather here in the next 30 minutes with an opportunity here in a few minutes for you to chime in with your own weather-related questions. You can text those to this number on your screen, 309-304-0888, 309-304-0888. And one more time for the folks all the way in the back of the bus this morning, 309-304-0888. That is the easiest way to get your questions. Our awesome digital team will then relay those to me right here at the weather desk, and we'll get to those coming up in just a few minutes. But we do this every single Wednesday, and I'm going on vacation the next 3 Wednesdays. That doesn't mean this stops, though. Weather anchor Peter Warner and meteorologist Morgan Strackbein will be right here filling in for me the next 3 weeks after that. So no alarm, just taking a bit of a break. It's been a long stretch without one, and it is well overdue. So I'm enjoying spending some quality time with Mr. Cooper here in the next few weeks as we get through the month of August. We have been busy this morning. Actually, the last 2 mornings we've been busy tracking in a line of thunderstorms. The one we had yesterday officially classified as a derecho. It would be the first one for the Quad Cities for this year. And interestingly enough, I'm going to show you some of the statistics. We've seen a derecho every year for the last 3 years. We haven't had much of a break, but it serves as a good reminder that not all derechos are the same. Just because you have a derecho doesn't mean it's going to be the same as what happened in August of 2020. So setting the record straight on that there. We'll talk more about derechos coming up in just a moment. Let's talk about our weather impact alert that we have in place for today. It is for nearly the entire day because we are going to see repeated rounds of showers and thunderstorms as we head throughout your Wednesday. We've already seen one of those rounds this morning, and actually there's a second one that is starting to come in as well really quickly. So any additional rainfall, especially if it's heavy, can certainly cause some flooding issues that are coming through the region, especially if you have some standing water, say, in your ditches and some others here too. So keep that in mind. Don't cross flooded roadways, all that other good advice that we typically talk about. Let's go to live radar. We're going to start tracking some of these storms that are moving through. You know, like we've seen the last couple of mornings, the storms really begin to lose their intensity as they come through our region, especially once they hit the Illinois side of the river. And it's not a coincidence. It's because by the time it gets to this location, this rain-cooled air out ahead of it just kind of runs in and chokes all the incoming moisture and storm energy away. So we still have some light to moderate rain ongoing into parts of Joe Davis County right along the Mississippi River. More rain through Clinton and Savannah. That'll be working its way into Chadwick, Milledgeville. Could be a quick rumble of thunder with that too. We've seen some embedded lightning strikes at times with this activity. Further to the south, let's take you into Bureau County. Mineral, Princeton, Kewaunee getting some heavy rain. Could be some lightning that pops up with this activity here north of Toulon coming up in the next few minutes. But the outflow boundary or the rain-cooled air is just to the west of Princeton. So you'll see your wind speed pick up here shortly ahead of this line. The Metro Quad Cities, we're seeing some heavy rain, occasional bolt or two of lightning that's coming through. You've got more heavy rain stretching from Sherrard to Viola and Woodhull. Henderson, Alexis, Little York, Keysburg, Monmouth, Galesburg just got around to heavy rain again. And it looks like there's another batch just to your southwest near Monmouth that'll be incoming for you very shortly. Burlington, starting to see that rain lighten up a bit. And if we go to the regional perspective here to show you what's going on, things are quieting down to the west, but we still have a few more impulses of energy, and you can see those are right here, riding along a boundary. So if you live south of Interstate 80, we're likely going to see more rounds of showers and thunderstorms as we go into this afternoon. Now, in terms of the severe weather threat today, it's not very high. It's only a 1 out of 5. Yes, we've seen a few warnings already issued this morning, including one for the Quad Cities and points to the north. That was for damaging wind gusts approaching about 60 miles an hour. So winds not as strong as what we were seeing yesterday with some of those storms. But that's going to continue to be the threat here for the remainder of today, as any storm that can get a little bit stronger will have a good intense wind gust with it on an isolated basis, and there will also be some heavier pockets of rain that'll be pushing through too. So let's go through Future Track, trying to get its rendition of what's going to happen for the rest of today. There's our morning line pushing off to the east. Behind that, there will be a few more showers and thunderstorms that develop throughout the afternoon hours, especially if you're south of Interstate 80. Illinois side of the Mississippi River, that looks to be the best bet in terms of coverage. We get to this evening, things really begin quieting down. I can't rule out a stray shower that could potentially come through, but we're not going to be expecting anything heavy, and we're not going to be really expecting much in the way of thunderstorms either. What about your Thursday tomorrow? Well, that's not looking too bad either. There will be more clouds, so we're going to call it partly to mostly cloudy for tomorrow. Stray shower well south of the Quad Cities. And then we get a really nice stretch of weather that we've been talking about, this right here. Several days in the 70s. These are typical temperatures of early June, if not late September. So a really nice break from the oppressive heat coming our way. And it's going to stay cool at least through the weekend. We will not be getting any additional heat and humidity until we get into the early part of next week. This is going to be such a welcome sight. I think many of us are greatly looking forward to these temperatures coming in. I actually had a post on social media yesterday kind of explaining some of the temperatures that we could see by Friday morning, and look at that. 56 is what we're expecting here in the Quad Cities, but farther to the north, we could see temperatures drop into the low 50s as early as Friday morning. So you can give that air conditioning a break, let it kind of reset itself, and maybe cool off your electric bill a little bit too. I know that has certainly been racking up very quickly here with all of the air conditioning that we have had to use. So let's talk about what happened with the storms yesterday, because that was officially classified as a derecho by the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center. Something I was not aware of, though, and I did not catch this until yesterday, is that the criteria or the definition of a derecho in order for it to meet that name, that term, actually changed back in May. There was a couple of more points they added to the board that had to be met, a couple of more requirements. So let's go over those really quick, and I'll show you what changed. So everything in white is what we had before here on the bullet point list. These are the derecho requirements. It had to travel at least 250 miles. That's nothing new, and that is easily what our storms did yesterday. Those storms have to have a path of strong winds that's at least 60 miles wide. Again, that was not a problem yesterday. We had multiple reports of 60+ mile per hour wind gusts, including right here in the Quad Cities. The wind gusts have to exceed at least 58 miles per hour consistently along the majority of the line. Again, that's part of the old definition. But here's what's new. 2 specific items were added. You have to have at least 5 reports. They put a number on this now, and that number is 5 reports of 75+ mile per hour winds. That indeed we did. There were multiple reports of 90+ mile per hour winds in northwest Iowa with the storms Monday night into Tuesday morning. The other thing they added, there have to be at least 3 75 mile per hour plus gusts separated by 50 miles. So they're spacing out those stronger wind gusts, likely to kind of account for the intensity of the storm, meaning the storm would have to be intense for a longer period of time, a longer duration, also a longer length in terms of distance. You'd have to have more of those 75+ mile per hour wind gusts. Is this going to make it harder for us to classify things as a derecho, or is it going to make them less common? I don't think so, because honestly, even before they put out this new criteria in May, we were already, for the most part, meeting a lot of these new bullet points that were already put on the paper here, if you will, on pen and paper. So that's the change in requirements. Again, that just came out in May, and it was yesterday that I was learning about those for the first time. So wanted to pass those along to you. What about the derecho climatology? How often have we seen these things? So I'm taking you all the way back to 1996. Any box in gray has been a derecho-free year. A box in yellow means we've seen 1. A box in orange means it was a rare 1-2 punch derecho, which means you've had 1 in the same day within 24 hours of each other. And then the one in red is the first ever December derecho. on record anywhere in the United States. So you can see the last 3 years, 2023, 2024, 2025, we have had derechos in the Quad Cities. Those typically occur in June, July, and August. So the fact that we had one yesterday in July, it's prime time, and there is the possibility that we run into more heading into the month of August. So we're not really done per se with derecho season. So that is going to be another possibility here heading into the next few months. But yeah, I remember 2014 quite vividly. That was the year that we had the 1-2 punch derecho. We had one move through very early in the morning, and then another one formed right behind it, moving through in the early afternoon. That was rare. It was the only time that we know, at least in recorded weather history, that that has happened. But it goes to show all these derecho events are different. Not one of them is ever the same. Many of you commented, in fact, on social media when I posted it last night. I slept right through it. I didn't even know we had it. It's just a reminder that just because it's called a derecho doesn't mean it's going to be a repeat of what we saw in August of 2020, where we had widespread 100-mile-per-hour winds, power outages for days, and trees down all over the place. Not every derecho is going to be the same. There are going to be varying intensities, there's going to be varying damage, and there's going to be varying wind speeds too. So keep that in mind. That's why I don't like loosely throwing around the D word here ahead of time. They're nearly impossible to forecast ahead of time. You're talking maybe a few hours before, which the Storm Prediction Center did that night. It was literally just hours before when they started using the word derecho. So it's something you can't predict a week in advance, not even a few days in advance, no matter how hard or how good of a forecaster you may be. So keep that in mind if you see those posts come up on social media. Don't put too much stock into them. That can certainly cause a lot of panic for sure. The type of derecho we had moved through yesterday was called a progressive derecho, and these are the ones that typically form in the summer. There's another type called serial, and those are the ones that we get in the wintertime or the fall, also the early spring. But your progressive derecho, it met the bill perfectly, the line of storms that came through. It's associated with a stationary boundary. That's exactly what we had laying across the region. It's also associated with a lot of heat, and it also has a little bit more of a narrower path, and that's what we saw as well. So a little neat tidbit about derechos there. Wanted to go ahead and review that with you. Speaking of reviewing, how about reviewing what we had for this morning for our Ask Andrew question? The question came from Don in Muscatine. He was wondering, why are some cities constantly warmer than others? And one of those cities is likely the Quad Cities that he's talking about. So when you look at a temperature map, especially on a calmer weather day when we don't have any what we call contamination from showers and thunderstorms, we have just a few clouds, some sun, or a quiet, clear night, you're going to see some difference in temperatures across the region, some of them quite dramatic. The reason for that is it's all about the location of where that weather station, where that thermometer, that weather sensor is located. So for example, the official weather station for the Quad Cities is located at the Quad Cities International Airport. Think about what that airport is surrounded by. It is surrounded by a whole bunch of concrete, a whole bunch of pavement. You've got all the runways. You've also got to the north of that, the big shopping areas. You got South Park Mall, all this other pavement, John Deere Road, lots of parking lots, lots of buildings, etc. That is what we call an urban heat island. And if you look at the graph here, what I'm showing you are the nighttime temperatures and then the daytime temperatures on the top. Yes, there is a much greater impact in terms of raising the daytime temperatures when you have a urban heat island setting than there is nighttime temperatures because, of course, you're involving the sun. But even at night, notice how you go from a rural area, which is typically cooler, both during the day and night, to a downtown urban area that is much, much warmer at night and significantly warmer during the day. Even industrial areas like factories, those areas with all the buildings and the cement and the concrete and the pavement jump the temperature up. And even suburban areas too, though not as dramatic as downtown. Even your neighborhoods, your big subdivisions, those can have a little bit of a mini urban heat island effect. And at nighttime, how this works without the sun is that all those surfaces, including the pavement and the buildings, hold on to heat from the day and then slowly release it overnight as things cool off. That's what keeps your overnight temperatures up, and that's what leads to this little what we call urban heat island effect. So awesome, awesome question that is coming in from Don there in Muscatine, and I want to thank him for sending that along. And again, I pick a lot of these questions not only from when you submit them at our website, but also right here in the chat too. If there's one I can do a little bit of a deeper dive into, I would love to do that. So thanks again for sending that question in. Before we get to your questions, there was one more question that came in, and this was talking about how hot has our summer been so far. Yeah, because it feels like the last several days, in fact, the last few months have just been really, really hot around here. So what I did is I went to one of the biggest data clearinghouses here in terms of being able to pull up these statistics. I went to the Iowa Environmental Mesonet, and what I'm showing you here is the average high temperature for each day, June 1st through the 27th of July, for every year dating back to the 1930s when we started keeping solid weather records here in the Quad Cities. So the red bar represents that average high temperature that we've seen those years during this date. And then what you're seeing in blue is the complete average since the 1930s. What you're seeing in black is the 30-year average temperature. So does this year rank above average, and is it record setting? Let's go ahead and let's zoom in to the graph here. And what we're looking at is the green bar. The green bar right here is 2025, the period of June 1st through July 27th. There's the average, the long-term, long-running average in blue right here. And then here's the 30-year average in black. And you can see absolutely this year has been above average, both the 30-year and the long-running average, but not by a whole lot. If you had to rank how hot this summer has been, it likely wouldn't even land in the top 30, probably not even in the top 50. Look at 2023 right here on the graph. It's also 2023 is in the top 10. It's at 87.84 degrees for an average temperature during this time period. Our average temperature so far for this time period, if I zoom this back out, you're going to be able to see it on the screen. It's right there below the year 1980 on the left-hand side. It's 85.3 degrees. In 2023, which is in the top 10, it was 87.84. So likely not in the top 10, as you can see here, not even in the top 20, probably not in the top 30 in terms of heat so far this summer. And I've also had a lot of questions asking, is there a correlation to the heat or the rain in the summer, correlating with what the upcoming winter could hold? There really is not, to give you an early answer on that, because the winter season is more to do with El Nino and La Nina, or whether or not either of those would be into play. So we don't really get too many clues or too many signs from the summertime pattern in terms of what could potentially happen this upcoming winter. So just give you that little early seed to plant, because I'm sure that question may come up as well. But yeah, we are definitely not anywhere near setting any records so far. I am going to keep an eye on this statistic, which I showed you last week, you know, those most humid summers in the Quad Cities. We were still at number 2, but a reminder that we have to get through all the way in the month of August. Summer does not come to an end until September 1st, meteorological summer that is. So we still have time that this number could climb, and we could still knock out the first place reading, which was in 2010, excuse me, and that was where we had 65.6 degrees. So that was impressive. I'll keep updating that graphic as we go along. But yeah, it's been a humid one. Last order of business before we get to your questions with almost 10 minutes remaining, this. We have wiped out really all and any drought that has been in place across the Quad Cities. This map has seen a dramatic shift in the last couple of months. We went from a lot of areas in pre-drought condition to some of you in moderate drought. Now all of that has simply fallen off, and you've got to go to extreme eastern Joe Davis County, Bureau County, and Knox County to find any ongoing pre-drought conditions. In fact, that's probably all going to be wiped away with the update that we're going to get tomorrow. So no longer worried about drought. That is certainly some good news, and no surprise given all the rain that we've had lately. That has certainly not been in short supply. So a lot of good news on the drought situation. Some not so good news in the forecast front until we get to tomorrow. We'll go ahead and we'll start diving into some of your questions here. Again, if you're just joining us, you can text those to the number at the bottom of your screen. It's 309-304-0888, and we'll see who we have joining us here this morning. Into the questions we go. It's loading up on my computer. Here we go. From Linnell, our good friend in Elizabeth there in Davis County. Let's see. She said her dog freaked out this morning during the thunderstorm. Am I going to deal with another round of... Oh, actually, it's her cat, excuse me. She's going to be dealing with some more cat anxiety as we go into this afternoon. There'll be a little bit of thunder and some lightning, but I think in terms of the severe weather threat, with as far north as you are, I don't see too much happening up there in terms of any nasty storm activity for today. Dante is wondering if it's going to rain tonight for the concert. Yes, there is a possibility. Especially depending on when you're going to the fair. If you're going early this evening, I would plan on a little bit of wet weather, but if you're going to wait till late, maybe after dark, that looks like a better opportunity to see some drier weather come back into the forecast picture. Someone's asking, will our weather be affected from the earthquake that struck near Russia? I don't believe so. There's, of course, a tsunami that was occurring with that event. That only impacts areas along the coast. And as far as I know, it has no impacts to weather whatsoever. But something, kind of related to an earthquake that we don't talk a whole lot about are the underground and undersea, under ocean volcanoes that can erupt. Those can certainly have impacts on our weather. They spew a lot of water vapor into the air, and they've actually been researched and studied that big eruptions of undersea volcanoes can actually add so much moisture into the air that they can raise the global temperature. It's quite a fascinating thing to read up on. And if someone wants to shoot me a question about that, I can do a deeper dive into an Ask Andrew. Maybe I'll just add it to my list anyway. I'll do the work there for you. We have our good friend Billy from Clinton checking in this morning. Good morning. It's good to see you here with us. Yesterday morning, noticed a severe thunderstorm warning with the tag extremely dangerous situation. What criteria has to be met for that, and will it replace the PDS severe thunderstorm and tornado emergency tags? Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great day as well. So the the extremely dangerous situation tag is not going to replace the PDS tag. The extremely dangerous situation tag is used when we have confirmed reports of very strong winds. For example, some of the winds yesterday topping 90 miles an hour. Actually, it was Cedar Rapids that I think had an 82 mile per hour wind gust with the storms yesterday morning, and that was measured. So with that being confirmed in an actual measurement, that really heightens up the messaging that the National Weather Service will use, because it's a confirmation that yes, winds are indeed that strong, and this becomes an extremely dangerous situation because we're talking about winds that could cause similar damage to like a tornado going through the same area. So not anything that's going to be replacing what we've got going on right now, but it's another tool in the arsenal to really grab people's attention when it comes to taking these warnings seriously, especially when we have confirmed reports of winds that have been clocking greater than 80 miles an hour. That is a fantastic question. Marcus from Moline, I know who this is. Good morning. His question is, what is the difference between a wall cloud and a shelf cloud? That's a great question, and this is a good reminder for everyone because these two are very easily confused, and I'm not surprised because there are some similarities. So I'm going to see if I still have my screen up here. I actually had an example of this that I could show you. Let's see if I can pull this up. We'll see what it looks like. Again, we're going to do this on the fly, so whether this functions or whether it's updated or outdated or not, we're going to find out here. So we're missing a photo here on the right-hand side, but on the right-hand side, that is what you would see as a shelf cloud. So let's talk about the wall cloud since we have an actual photo of that here on the screen that I can show you. So what you are looking at on the left-hand side, that is the wall cloud. Typically, the wall cloud is going to hang the lowest of all of the clouds. It is closest to the ground. It is also what we like to call very chubby. It's very fat, very round. It spins, it rotates. This is where typically your tornadoes are going to form. It has what we call a rain-free base, meaning you won't see any rain falling from underneath of it. And in this one, this is actually a really good example of a wall cloud, because if you look at where the lightning is in the background there on the right-hand side, that would actually be likely where your shelf cloud is. And with the shelf cloud, immediately behind it, you get the downpouring of the rain, you get the lightning, you get the hail. The wall cloud is rain-free, it is hail-free, and most oftentimes spinning very, very quickly. Now, it's not long. A shelf cloud can go many, many miles. It looks like the mothership is what I like to call it in terms of that. And the shelf cloud is what we saw this morning. I've got about a dozen of you with pictures in my inbox right now that have sent me all shelf clouds. So this morning we had a shelf cloud, a wall cloud. Just think of it as being a little chubby an appearance there. Not as big and certainly not as flat looking as what a shelf cloud is. It's definitely more dramatic and it sits lower to the ground. But if you were looking for a tornado, the wall cloud is the place you want to be able to see that. Now I can go back into my archives here and we'll see if this scene works. Again, we've done some cleaning on some of these, so they may not have the picture with them, but yeah, look at that throwback logo. Again, we're going back into the archives. Here's another good example of a shelf cloud versus a wall cloud. The shelf cloud on the top, look at how massive it is. Look at how behind it the skies are much darker, the rain is falling. The wall cloud, look at how much shorter it is. It's not as long. It's very, very small, and it's protruding lower than any of the other clouds, and it also is rotating. So there's a throwback for you, talking about wall clouds and shelf clouds, but it's always a great question to ask because they're easy to get confused. And now we help separate those for you. Paul in Davenport is asking why the sirens went off the previous night if there was no derecho and no tornado warnings. The sirens went off last night in Davenport because there were winds confirmed of 70+ miles per hour. When winds are confirmed 70+, the sirens are automatically sounded, and likely your EAS warning on your phone went off. When winds are not that strong, like this morning, we had a severe thunderstorm warning for only 60-mile-per-hour winds. These sirens are likely not going to sound. It's just another, dart in the board as to why I hate outdoor sirens. I think they're confusing. People don't know what they mean. A lot of people assume it's a tornado that's coming when they hear an outdoor siren. That's not the case because most of the cities here sound the siren for everything, whether it's a tornado or whether it's not. So I'm not a huge fan of outdoor sirens. I'm a huge fan of the NOAA weather radio because it tells you exactly what's coming your way. Or if you have the smartphone, you've got your Storm Track 8 app loaded, which will also tell you what's coming your way. I do like the siren in that it gets your attention, and your attention should be then to focus on a source for warnings to see, okay, I need to check in with either my television screen or my phone screen or my NOAA weather radio to see exactly what threat is coming my way. Don't always assume that it is or is not a tornado because not everybody sounds their sirens for just tornadoes. In our case here in the Quad Cities, we sound sirens for everything for the most part. Tyler's asking, with all the recent rainfall in the last few weeks, are the Quad Cities above, near, or below average for rainfall? And what is it looking like this weekend for the NASCAR race in Newton, Iowa? The NASCAR race this weekend is going to be fine, just perfect there. It'll be nice and comfortable in the 80s. We are above average for rainfall. I'm actually going to be tallying up those numbers here later today, and I'm going to talk about those tomorrow and Friday. Also, if you're curious how much rain a lot of our hometowns have gotten this month, and then summer so far, I'm going to tally up all that information, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow on Good Morning Quad Cities. Let's see. Randy's asking, where are we at for average rainfall, at least in Kelowna? I have never mowed my yard so much. I believe it. You know what? Our mowers are getting a huge workout this year. I also have done a lot more mowing than normal. So what I'm going to do, give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the climate report. We're going to look at specifically the Quad Cities. So for the month to date, as of today, we have just under 9 inches of rain in the bucket. The average amount of rain that we see in an average July is about 4 inches. So, you do the math, we're about 5 inches ahead of normal. For the season, the summer season, we have close to a foot of rain in the bucket, and the average is 9. So we're about 3 inches above average for the summer season. For the year, we have 23 inches of rain, just about 24 inches in the bucket, and the average is 23.5. So for the year, we're sitting pretty balanced. We're right where we should be, but we've caught up kind of in a late last-minute fashion that's caused our June and July and the summertime rainfall to shoot way above the average. So again, I'm going to break down some more of these in terms of numbers as we go into tomorrow, if you're curious. Not going to break any records, that's for sure. It could land in the top 50, though. Last question here. I'm asking how far are we from record rainfall for the month of July? Give me 1 second, and I'm actually going to dig into that really quickly here. And we'll go into monthly data. I want to look at precipitation, and I want to see the Quad Cities. And I'm going to tell it to go. Oh, you know what? It's going to start doing, let me see here. Daily, monthly summarized data. I'm doing this on the fly, so give me 1 second here. Let's try this. Let's go to Moline. We're going to hit go. The wettest July on record was 1992, 11.7 inches. 2025 ranks as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we are the 7th wettest July on record right now. If you're curious about rainfall in the Quad Cities, 7th wettest July on record. So we are indeed in the top 10. I'm going to go through all those rainfall statistics tomorrow morning on GMQC because now that the weather's quiet,